What's up, everybody? Today we got news about the return of the Golden Guardian. So pretty pumped about that, and gonna take a quick look at the kit that was shown today. Real quick before we get into the kit, I might pop it up a few times, but I stole this disclaimer right from the beginning of their video. Everything is subject to change, so just a quick reminder of that. And yes, this boss was in Alpha. If you played in Alpha, I was gonna go back and look at the kit from Alpha, so I could see how much they changed them up and how different things were. But then in the back of my head, I was like, well, I don't want to start remembering the Alpha kit and then getting it confused with the old and the new kit. So let me just look at the new kit and keep the new kit fresh on my mind. So getting into it, the basic Midas Touch. Attacks all enemies, spreads a random debuff from the enemy with the highest speed to all enemies. To all other enemies. So that's nice, you get to pick what hero will be targeted. Depending on how you build, you can build whoever with the highest speed. That'll be the target. Presumably, you're also going to build a ton of resistance on them, or maybe figure out a way to have block debuffs on them so that they don't have debuffs on them to spread. Or you know that they cleanse if you only have like a single target cleanse. Also, another thing that's within your control, if a target's archetype matches that of any other enemy, has a 25% chance to place Petrify on them for one turn. So if you have two Brawlers or two Slayers, you know, those are the archetypes, Invoker. So basically, best case scenario, you have a team of every different archetype to avoid catching that Petrify. His core ability, I didn't catch this on my first watch through, but when I was rewatching it for the video, I caught this and thought it was hilarious.
Core here is Shower of Gold. This was written in a different way originally, and we're like, Paul, you need to change the way you've worded that. So what's going on here? Attack.
Sorry if I still get a laugh out of stuff like that. Anyways, core, Shower of Gold. Attack all enemies, place a debuff on each for 3 turns based on their archetype. The debuffs for each archetype are meant to kind of counter each archetype. I think the easy ones are defense down on defenders. You're going to lower their defense and their damage. Attack down on slayers, you're going to lower their damage. Accuracy down on disruptors, that's who you're going to want landing debuffs, so accuracy down is going to hurt them. Hex on invokers, I think is a little bit of a stretch, but I guess it makes sense. You're doing more damage on your healers. And drain on brawlers, also a little bit of a stretch, but going to do increased damage to your tankier HP based heroes. One thing I don't see is that these can't be resisted or blocked or anything. So you're going to want to bring in either a healthy dose of resistance, cleanser to get rid of all these, or somebody that can block debuffs pretty reliably, because 3 turns is pretty brutal, especially once we get into the rest of his kit. He has some synergy with debuffs. For his ultimate, we have Wrath of King Midas. Attack all enemies, consume all debuffs on each target, and inflict 20% increased damage to that enemy for each debuff consumed. So there's part of the synergy with debuffs. You don't want him hanging around when he gets to his ultimate. Might take some manual play up until we get presets. Also place stun on the target for 1 turn if 2 or more debuffs are consumed, just to keep beating a dead horse. More synergy with debuffs, you don't want to get stunned, especially when it's an AoE, so you could stun the whole team. And decrease the current gold bounty by 1% for each debuff consumed. Again, the whole point of this dungeon is to farm gold, so decreasing your gold bounty is just going to hurt your purpose of the whole dungeon. They're cut off the screen right now, but he has a bunch of passives. His first passive, Ancient Guardian, kind of a beefy one. Golden Guardian's immune to disables placed by enemies and cannot be defeated. I'm not sure if it says it one of his other passives, but it's a 50 turn fight. So you're not just trying to beat the Golden Guardian, you're trying to take 50 turns and last 50 turns. And since he can't be defeated, when the Golden Guardian receives fatal damage, prevents its defeat, reduce its turn meter to 0, and place stun on the Golden Guardian for 1 turn. So that's pretty nice. If you do get the HP all the way down on him, you will get that 0 turn meter stun. More chance for you to get turns in, and more turns, more hits. We'll get into the hits in a little bit. While under stun, the Golden Guardian is immune to turn meter reduction and cannot gain divinity. When the stun expires, increase the Golden Guardian max HP by 50% and fully heal the Golden Guardian. So again, going with the can't be defeated, he gets a full heal and an HP boost, so it'll be difficult to keep defeating him over and over again. And he might be immune to turn meter reduction while he's stunned, but it is great that he can't gain divinity, so he won't get to that beefy ultimate any quicker. And the last part is reduce the damage the Golden Guardian receives from the first hit of any attack by 50%. The Golden Guardian has a 25% chance to retaliate unless the attacker is under Vanish or Precision. So it's going to be key bringing in those two buffs, because if we get back to his basic, it's an AoE with the debuff spread, and the chance to petrify with the double archetypes. That's going to be a whole mess to deal with, so better keep up Vanish and Precision. His next passive, Horde of Midas. This is where the hits come in. Each hit the Golden Guardian receives rewards gold bounty based on the hit type. Strong hits and critical hits reward increased gold bounty, which is nice because it kind of goes hand in hand with bringing precision. And something that could be interesting here is your Disruptor. Not that you necessarily want to build them for damage, but they're going to have a ton of accuracy, which will give them an increased chance to strong hit. So your Disruptor could be a good way to boost up your gold bounty, even if he's not necessarily helping with the damage on Golden Guardian. Next part of the passive is survive the Golden Guardian's attacks until the turn limit is reached to claim the accumulated gold bounty, which, like we just said a little while ago, it's a 50 turn limit. Although here it just says until the turn limit, so who knows, maybe the deeper you get, higher stages, maybe they have a higher turn limit, so it's more difficult. Not sure, just speculating because it doesn't say 50 turns right here in the kit, it just says turn limit. And if the Golden Guardian defeats all enemies, all accumulated gold bounty is lost and returned to the treasury, which should be kind of obvious. If you lose, you don't get your bounty. This next passive is the reason you want to get to the 50 turn count limit as quick as you can with him doing as few ultimates as he can. His passive Enraged, after activating an ultimate 5 times, increased damage inflicted by 500%. So that's going to be an insane damage boost if you can't get him down before he does 5 ultimates. Or I should say get to 50 turns before he does 5 ultimates. I think there's 3 passives left, and they're kind of all the generic boss ones. Mythic Resilience, incoming damage from Acid, Blaze, and Bleed effects is reduced 75%. Immune to Lock Core, Lock Ultimate, Lock Passive, Charm, and increased divinity cost effects. So just your typical don't cheese the boss these ways kind of passive. Next is Mythic Spirit. Divinity reduction effects apply 1 stack of Arcane Aegis too. So basically you can bring divinity reduction heroes against the boss, but they're going to get stacks of Arcane Aegis, and it won't be as impactful the more you use the divinity reduction. And if you need a refresher, reduce divinity reductions by 15% multiplicatively. Wish that was an easier word. Per stack. Stacks are removed at the end of the hero's turn. And then we have the same exact thing for turn meter with the last passive, Mythic Tempo. Turn meter reduction effects apply 1 stack of Temporal Aegis too. And it's the same thing as the divinity reduction. It basically reduces the impact of turn meter reduction effects the more they're used until the stacks wear off. He does go on to show a little bit of his battle in whatever dev build they're on. And just want to call out, up top you can see the turns increasing as your heroes go. So it's however you get to 50, your turns and his turns included. Sorry if there's a weird cut there, I had to rewind it a little bit to make sure I was right. It is your team's turns and his turns combined to the 50. Since it is your turns and his turns, it'll be interesting to see what kind of strats come out of that. If there's some insane speed builds that get you a bunch of turns to his 1, so you get to the 50 and he only takes a few turns. Or maybe it is something that gets abused, so they turn it into boss turns instead of your turns. So you have to survive so many turns of his. Not sure how that would work with the ultimates and everything, but keep replaying while I'm talking so there's something in the background. But yeah, they did one thing Simon mentioned is that the 50 turn count is to kind of reduce the, not necessarily reduce, but keep your time down in the battle. Doesn't want it to be a never-ending boss fight. So maybe they won't switch it from 50 turns to boss turns. in the spirit of keeping the time quick. Something we'll have to see. Simon did say this will be in for beta 2, but my new favorite pop-up, everything's subject to change. I'm pretty sure we will see him in beta 2, but, you know, any differences between now and then could be subject to change. And also, I don't know if I paused it on any of the screens that shows the gold per level, but they said the economy they're still working on, so any of the gold that you see or rewards is totally not accurate yet. And also, this is a known bug. When he's stunned, he falls through the floor, in case you noticed that and had some questions. So yeah, this reward he was saying is the economy either isn't up to date in this dev build or they're still figuring it out with the gold dungeon coming back in. That's all I have for the Golden Guardian, but if you hung around this long, there's one more thing they slid in that I'd like to talk about real quick. It's so sneaky, YouTube doesn't even want me to show you. Apparently I broke it trying to pause it in the perfect spot. So if you played in the beta, here we see the familiar dungeon screen. See the addition of Treasury of Midas, which is where the Golden Guardian will be. But if we look over, we can see Anwin that was eternal during the first beta now has this new golden affinity, not divinity. And Gardens of Tomonchin, which wasn't in beta, now has the purple affinity, which we would call eternal, but it has a different symbol. So not sure if it's still eternal or not. But yeah, we don't have any concrete details yet, but they keep giving us these little teases of a new affinity. So the assumption is we'll have the traditional red, green, blue advantage, disadvantages. But then the assumption is that we'll call it gold and purple right now. Affinities will only be weak to each other while always having a neutral matchup to the other color affinities. But again, apart from some images shown in some videos, we don't have any concrete details on these. Might just be something they're testing on the dev build, and who knows if it doesn't work out the way they like it, it might not even make it into the beta build or anything, so might be nothing that we even see. But since they keep teasing it, it does look like we're going to have a new affinity, and maybe Eternal is changing to something else unless the other affinity has a name that matches with Eternal. Maybe have something like Eternal and Immortals. Trying to rack my brain for other mythological sounding terms that could fit, but kind of just drawing a blank now. So I think that's my cue to end this one. That's all I got. Have a good one.